Nets in overtime, going against the Cleveland Cavaliers, which, in my humble opinion, is not the team you should be going to overtime with. That's a one. A 3-point game ends this game. I suspect that's what the Nets are going to go for.
Harden gets it in Cleveland to Irving. Back ahead for Harden. They wanted a travel on Harden, and Hoffman gets called for the foul. Hoffman wants J.B. Bickerstaff to challenge him. I think he is. He did put the ball on the floor as he spun, anticipating the contact. The question, did he travel before any contact from Hoffman? Let's see.
I don't know. His foot, I think his foot was down before.
I guess he can't challenge it. J.B. Bickerstaff chatting with the officials. Harden ends up on the line.
One of the things that benefit the Nets there is that officials are ready to call a foul very, very quickly there. They know that the team is trying to foul. So sometimes players
Well, good job by the Cleveland Cavaliers fouling, because that gives them a chance to try to tie this game. Now, if I was the Nets, I would foul them. Get the ball out of their hands. Yeah, so I'm in another secret hideaway. Not perched atop my loft in Wayne Manor, Johnson Manor. Very similar to Wayne Manor. I mean, exhausted, but I have this Nets press conference to go to, which you can join me on.
And then Harris coming off the bench tonight, 37 minutes. DeAndre Jordan, 24 minutes in the starting role.
what does the science team say about Kyrie playing 40 minutes for this game back after 2 weeks off?
Osman gets it. What an athletic play underneath by Sexton to finish it. It's a 1-point game. Durant nearly gave it away in a kick ball. With 9.6 127, the Cavaliers not foul immediately, so you get that moment where you got to either get rid of it or you're put in a tough position. Holding on to a 1-point lead. We have just over 10 seconds to play in overtime. Harden, Durant, Irving in the backcourt, and there's the foul for Larry Nance.
Also goes back to the lecturing, which I know we've all talked about before. Not only do you have closers that are accustomed to making shots at the end of the game, but high percentage free throw shooters who have consistently
So I just joined the Zoom meeting.
Kevin Durant is 7 of 9 free throw line. His team is up by 1. 2-point lead for Durant. Cavaliers have no timeout remaining. 8.9 on the clock. Trying to give the Nets a 3-point edge. And he does. 127 to 124. 7 seconds left. And a foul is given on the outside. That's still got a foul to give. So 5.2 to play. Cleveland will have an opportunity here. Down by 3.
a very smart play by Harden because you saw it was delayed enough that he did not do it until he saw it on the pass. The last thing you want to do is get guy
Dotson tosses in. Sexton, his team down by 3 for the tie. He's got it.
Overtime.
We are all knotted up at 127. The Nets elected not to foul, and it cost them. Sexton sticks it.
Just takes his time, calibrates. Great defense by Kyrie Irving. Really on the goal and just a big shot by Colin Sexton.
Well, the Sexton gets the spot on the floor, right there at the wing, plenty of room. Sexton shooting nearly 52% from 3 this season. Kevin Love with the enthusiasm from the sideline.
Kevin Love out with a right calf strain. The Nets will have 1-2 on the clock.
I like the Nets' chances here.
Confirmation moving 3-point basket good. Now, Richard, this was the question that was posed early. You've got all this talent, all of these options, and here we are in this situation with 1.2 to play.
Well, in my opinion, I think your first option is Kevin Durant. Maybe because of the size of that 2 axes over any of the that's your first option. Then obviously you got Kyrie, James Harden, so we have to see who inbounds the ball. 1.2, so whoever pretty much catches it is going to get an opportunity to just knock down the shot. It looks like they're going to try and do something down or a lob to the basket.
Irving. Trigger man. Tied up at 127. Durant. Turnaround for the win. Just short. Double overtime.
Double overtime as Durant misses at the buzzer with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Great safe pass by Kyrie. Great turnaround by KD. Live to fight for another 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Here's USAA made for this guy. Who's serving? It is made for her. She's serving now. We make small branches and all branches. Whether they serve one tour or they have real. We also make USAA for military spouses and their kids. USAA is easy.
Second overtime in Cleveland, the Nets 127, the Cavaliers 127. Well, how did we get here? Nets got off to a ridiculously hot start, hitting their first 10 shots. Cavaliers came storming back and took control of the game. Seemingly, Kyrie Irving had a chance at the end of regulation. Offensive foul was called and was overturned. Jump ball, no shot was even released. Then, Colin Sexton, with his team down by 3, hits the 3 ball. KD a chance at the horn, comes up short. And this is the first of 2 games between the Nets and Cavaliers this week. They'll do it again Friday night at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
They made this big overtime after overtime. I know that.
I'm ready. Is there a bill on here somewhere? I know Richard's got one.
Yeah, Richard had this. Yeah, and also, though, the baseball style series of this opportunity to be in one place to play the Cleveland team again 2 days later, it's going to be an interesting look, especially with this new group together. You see with Brooklyn how they continue to look at these pieces, look at the strategy of the way Cleveland is played on both ends of the floor.
Cavaliers control the tip. It's Jared Allen. On the 3, Reed holding his ground. Allen forced to kick it out for Austin. Across down to 5. Sexton hanging. Joe Harris ends up on the deck. He's got scratches on the bridge of his nose and under his left eye. And a foul is called on Brooklyn. 2 free throws here for Colin Sexton. McDonald's All-American 2017 won the slam dunk competition that weekend.
And he's really grown every year. Think about the fact that rookie year he averaged just under 17 points per game, almost 21 last season. This season he's over 25 points per game. You could see his understanding of how to attack on the floor and still flourishing.
128-127, Cavaliers. 4.5 to play. Second OT. Harden swings it. Durant. Drive and kick. Austin digs in defensively. Irving goes behind the back. Fade away. Off the rim. Rebounded by Allen. Sexton, he's got Green out front. Now Harris will take it on the outside. Sexton. Operating.
He's failing as
And it's Green picking up the first one. Number 4.
Be careful. Don't want to pick up the second. You're already down. You're already down 4 points. Free throws come out. They could have called it. Now he's got to control his emotion right here because if you got 3.5, James Harden, who is improving his condition, Kyrie can miss a substantial amount of time. So, to be playing, close to 50 minutes, we've got to be approaching that one for some of these guys who are in the high 40s. That's a large load.
Sexton, this is on a pair of free throws. It's 47 minutes for Durant, 47 minutes for Harden. line for Irving, but the Nets can't buy one in this second overtime. Irving with 33 points. He's 12 of 25 from the field. James Harden has a triple-double. Kevin Durant has put up 36. Sexton. That's his range. Anywhere. Colin Sexton is accounted for all of the Cleveland points in the second overtime.
And there was a screen.
See, Durant, left-handed shot, he fouled. Free throw again to Kevin Durant.
Great back cut. Nance defending. Denying outside. Durant making a play. They with it. It was shot by Sexton. The play.
Look, Larry Nance is denying KD almost to half court. That's what allows for that backup. You're doing almost anything you can to not let him catch the ball. That's going to open up lanes for everyone else. But great backup. Don't just keep going out and further. Once you have the big man away from the back, you probably got a big easy backup. Really has on James Harden.
38 for Kevin Durant. The Nets trail 134 to 129, 2:40 to go in double OT. High screen from Nance. Irving sticks with Sexton. Fade away, goes down for Colin Sexton. He's got 16 points in the 2 overtime sessions. Irving, pull up. Yes. Sexton has scored 12 straight for the Cavaliers. 136 to 131. 36 overall for Sexton. Now he's got the taller Durant. Sexton.
So the Nets are down 8.
Colin Sexton is locked in.
The young boys are bringing it to them.
Getting the switch you want, and that's the switch you don't want. Sexton.
They're hitting. Well, Kevin Durant should be able to guard Colin Sexton. Push off. The Nets are going to lose their first game with the big three. To the Cleveland Cavaliers, the team picked to finish with the worst record in the league. You sold on this Nets big three? I won't until they win something. And they haven't won anything yet. I'm talking to people, but I don't see you, so I think I'm by myself. And you may have seen me pick my nose. Cleveland up 11. It's a blowout.
42 for Colin Sexton.
In 3.5 minutes. They have 11 men.
For the Cavaliers. 15 in this overtime period. What's the record?
So I'll score the Nets 15-4.
Richard here. Jump shot. Durant. He pumps the fist. And the Cavaliers lose to a victory in double OT. What a shooting performance by Colin Sexton. Durant drops it inside. And Irving finishes on the game.
And really throughout the entirety of this game, the shooting performance by the Cavaliers. 52% from the field, 61 from the three-point line. Fatigue had set in here in this second overtime, but it is the totality of the game and how Cleveland was able to excel offensively.
About 30 seconds here. Sexton. He is human. Harden one-on-one with Osman. Takes it to the rim and finishes with the right hand. 17.8 on the clock. The Nets are down by 10. Foul given. Get free. 16.6 left to play. This is one of 7 cities that allows fans into their arena. And the fans that are out in Cleveland have certainly enjoyed the show. From Colin Sexton. Dorian Prince gets a couple of free throws here for 15 points. Tack on another against his former team. Jared Allen goes for 12 points and 11 rebounds. And the Cavaliers will improve to 7-7. They'll hit the 500 mark with a win over the Nets. Nets 4-game winning streak will end tonight in Cleveland. Looks like the Nets are going to rally against the Cavaliers, down by as many as 14.
Cavaliers win by 12
Had a chance to win it at the end of regulation, could not.
against
Couldn't hold on
Kevin Durant,
at the end of the first overtime.
James Harden, and Kyrie Irving.
Became the Colin Sexton show.
Have 3 championships for 3 guys, but 1 played with LeBron,
Cavaliers gutty win over the Nets.
1 played with
135.
Steph Curry
Double overtime.
and Klay Thompson,
And these two teams will do it again on
and Draymond Green.
to show you the double
So,
game presented by Big
and
So some power dunks thanks to DeAndre Jordan. That bounce pass in transition.
Kevin
And then the
Love was on that team too.
perfect. That's from Kevin Durant.
You need some juice.
From your friend, Casey. Creativity in the pick and roll. DeAndre Jordan took advantage for your Bigelow defense of the game.
the Land Rover drive of the game.
These are the most received edition of George Man Irving. Bring the roll long stride. Boom! In the Euro. Kevin Durant with your Land Rover drive game.
That wraps it up for Cleveland at the Barclays Center. So long. That's your friend.
Thanks, Ian. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the S Post Game Show with Jefferson, who will be
Oh, I'll click into that Zoom link.
Brooklyn's Big Three making their big debut tonight in the first of 2 at the Cavaliers. Regulation would not be enough on what turned out to be a marathon night. What a shooting performance in extra time by Colin Sexton and the Cavaliers as a whole, really.
Yeah, we're wondering about on the Nets. How's it going to work with their 3 big players? The star of the night was Colin Sexton. He had 15 points in the second overtime. That is one of the best overtime performances I've ever seen. The little guy was spectacular, and he had missed the last 5 games with an ankle injury. Pretty interesting for the Nets here. Their big 3 players, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden, they played the last 18:45 of this game, and you can tell they were a little fatigued. Not an excuse, but that was a lot of minutes for that group, especially Kyrie, who had missed 2 weeks of the season.
Exactly where I wanted to go next because the guys talked about it, Richard and Sarah and I, and fatigue definitely set in.
It certainly did, but here was the issue with the Nets. You know, with all that experience they have, they're guys that have been to the finals. Kevin Durant won 2 championships, Kyrie Irving won a title. The way that they executed down the stretch wasn't good enough. The shot by Colin Sexton to tie the game at the end of overtime, that's when you have to raise the question, do you want to foul? Now, every team has their own philosophy. The Nets decided not to foul. He made the big shot. The Nets still had time, 1.2 seconds to go. They had a timeout. They called it. They inbounded the ball. You could tell that Kevin Durant wanted the ball a little bit sooner than when he got it from Kyrie Irving. When he turned around, that was a deep jumper that he took. They could have won the game right there. So late game execution and the first quarter.
Finding their way. Let's look at the video. Take us through this process.
Here's Kyrie Irving's three-point drive away. Gives the Nets a big lead. The Nets at one point up by 5 points in overtime. Durant makes a block. Kyrie makes a block here. And Kevin Durant leading the break. James Harden kicks it back out to Durant, scores, and he's fouled. So everything was rolling for the Nets in that first overtime. They looked like they had a bounce in their set. They were playing well, but giving up too many shots late in the game.
Again, Harden with a very good pass to Kevin Durant.
And like you said, Frank, these are shots that they would normally make.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, Larry Nance, off of a broken play, that turned out to be a big play. And then this one, you thought this was going to do it. James Harden out to Jeff Green, buries the long three. Then it kind of becomes a free throw shooting contest for the Nets. They were making this. This one was interesting. Now, that was not reviewable, but it looks here that maybe the Nets might have gotten away with one. Because Harden looks like he takes 2 steps before he puts the ball down. He gets to the free throw line, makes them. Nets fouled once, but on this play, a couple of opportunities maybe there to give the foul on Colin Sexton, and he'll do it.
And he heated up.
He hits the big shot right there, and he was really just getting started. Here's the end of the first overtime. Durant, I think he wanted that ball probably like 3 to 5 steps a little bit sooner. When he caught it, that is a tough shot to make. And then in double overtime, it was basically the Colin Sexton shot. And here's the thing, too. The Nets tried different defenders. I'm right there. Kyrie is giving him way too much space off of the screen. Then he nails the jumper. He made a lot of big plays in the game. This kid is tough. He took a big shot to the face by Kyrie at the end of regulation. Wasn't just relying on the three. But here he's got Durant on that long arm. Just took a step back. Nailed it again.
Didn't matter who was defending.
I mean, 15 points in overtime. I mean, that's like, Michael Jordan's doing that. Kobe Bryant's doing that. You're not expecting. Kevin Durant is doing that. James Harden, Kyrie Irving. You're not expecting Colin Sexton to do that.
He had a night.
And then there's Taurean Prince. Sexton was tired of shooting, so he said, I'll give it to the inside Taurean Prince. By the way, Jared Allen and Taurean Prince did very well in the fourth quarter for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Sexton's numbers, 42 points. What a night. 16 of 29. 5 of 11 from 3 and 5 assists as well. Just a terrific, terrific performance from him. As promised, time to bring in our Richard Jefferson. And Richard, you talked in the pregame about how this Nets offense would flow. What would it look like? And the fact that they needed to limit turnovers. We did see that huge response late and into overtime. It's just game 1. Not quite enough, though. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it wasn't quite enough tonight, but there was a lot of positives. One, I stand by that. There was definitely a fatigue factor when you have Kyrie with the break, the short break that he was on. Then you have James Harden that's still building up his conditioning, and then all of a sudden you get a double overtime game when you're asked to play 50 minutes. That's next to impossible to be. I don't care how great of a player you are to be able to knock down, big shots. A lot of shots fell short, but ultimately I think the Nets, they had the opportunity to really kind of take complete control after starting the game 10 for 10, but they turned the ball over, and then after that they missed their next 11 shots. So it was really a roller coaster to start this game, and then they found themselves in a dogfight, and Colin Sexton just took over in that second quarter, or that second overtime.
Richard, at the end of the first overtime, 1.2 seconds to go, you mentioned it on the telecast, where Kevin Durant, it looked like he wanted that ball a little bit sooner on the inbounds pass from Kyrie Irving. What about that?
Well, look, at the end of the day, Kyrie's in a difficult spot because he's got Jared Allen guarding him. So, the range and area that you could just throw a pass isn't very, very easy. And also, too, they still got a very good shot. So his job as the inbounder is to be as safe as possible. That being said, if there was a slight opportunity to get him that ball, maybe a second and a half earlier where he's shooting that turnaround from 17 and not, 21 feet, that would make that shot that much easier, especially late in the game. The shot fell short as a lot of their shots did late. So the closer that shot would have been, the better. But, still got a quality shot.
So we have some heavyweights in the press conference. Ryan Lewis from
He looked outstanding, and also I want to
New York
compliment James Harden. James Harden completely
Post, Bruce Beck from NBC News 4, Malika Andrews from ESPN,
that Kyrie gets a rhythm quickly.
Jamal Murphy. What up, Jay? Brian Mahoney from the AP.
Picked it up in the second half, but Kyrie just had a beautiful flow. This is again another compliment to Kyrie. Even though he took that time off to handle the things that he needed to, he kept himself in great condition. He kept himself. You see this, so for him to have what he did, the play the way he did, let you know that this wasn't a 2-week vacation. He was doing everything he needed to do to make sure that he was in prime condition when he came back to the Brooklyn Nets.
This group of players, Richard, they played the last 18:45 of the game, including Kyrie, who, like you mentioned, had been off for 2 weeks. What do you make of that? It seems like Steve Nash still has to try to figure it out because they went really small. It worked for a while. Obviously, that second overtime, they didn't have much time.
Yeah, they didn't have much time, and that's bound to happen. I would look for him even in that next game on Friday. The teams aren't practicing a lot. The only way to really, truly improve your conditioning sometimes is to play through it. I did crack, a few jokes about the sports science team that that they're going nuts seeing these, especially with, like we talked about James Harden, we talked about Kyrie, but ultimately these guys are professionals. They are the most finely tuned athletes in the entire world. They're able to handle this. Now, is this something that you want to see consistently? No. But the guys looked good. They were moving well. And it's just one of those things, you respect Steve Nash's decision. I actually personally like to see this. Go with your horses on a big day off tomorrow, and then Friday, maybe get some substitutions early so that they're not playing that full game and then getting that second half. But I actually like to see stars, playing like stars and playing those minutes.
Richard, what about Kevin Durant? Let's turn our attention now to him. He and Harden working that pick and roll. They were unstoppable the other night versus the Bucks. A different look today.
Yeah, with a different look. I think, you got to give credit to J.B. Bickerstaff, the head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. They did a very good job of switching up defenses, trying to give them different looks, running zone. But Kevin Durant, there is no defense that he hasn't seen pretty much since he was 15 years old. And he just did a great job with a balanced attack. You look at this. Larry Nance has a difficult job, trying to guard him. You see that defensive effort. They really picked up that defensive effort there, in late in the second half and in the overtime, whether it was deflections, steals, block shots. That's what they're going to need. Look at this: a 12 for 25, 12, 8, and 4 night, 4 blocks for Kevin Durant and 38 points. Like the dude looks like he's never missed any time, any games. It looks like he's one of the best players on the planet.
50 minutes for James Harden tonight, Richard, and he only takes 14 shots. I was looking at his stats from last year. He had a game where he took 41 shots. You mentioned him deferring. He had played so well in those first 2 games, initiating the offense, scoring. Do you think he deferred maybe too much in this game?
No, I don't think so. I think his goal, like again, we're talking about a man that just had a 21 point, 10 rebound, 12 assists. He just had a triple double, right? So it's like he knows how to get anything he wants out of the game. And like I said, I want to compliment him and respect him. When you allow a guy like, Kyrie Irving to get going, here, Kyrie, get your rhythm going. Like this is a big three, one of the best big threes talent wise and accomplished wise that we've seen in a while. And so when you really break it down, the way he really finessed the game, got Jeff Green, had a great first half. There was a lot of contribution from guys, and if James Harden's going to take on that role of I believe I can average a triple double, but again, he only took 2 or 3 shot attempts, and then he had double-digit shot attempts in the second half. He's going to have double-digit most likely on both halves, but I think this was purely by intention to make sure that he could get everyone going and everyone flowing.
So it's a day off and then another game at this very same team in the very same town at Cleveland on Friday. What's the approach?
Oh, I think the approach is understanding that, you got to limit your turnovers. They shot the ball extremely efficient, but there were some defensive lapses, and look, they're still figuring it out. Everyone expects that when you put these teams together, that it's going to be this fireworks from the beginning. They're going to have some moments, like you saw. Start off the game 10 for 10. Everything's going crazy. Then they mix their next 11 shots and they have 7 turnovers in the first half. These are things that they will correct. They will become more consistent. They'll get a better flow for each other. Okay, Kevin Durant missed a couple of shots, a couple of threes. Maybe James Harden doesn't take a 3. He decides to go downhill because they've shot a bunch of jumpers. It's all a rhythm and a flow for everyone in the organization, including the coaching staff. Figuring out the best way to keep 2 superstars on the court with one break. If that means allowing James Harden to start the game, kind of distributing the ball, then allow Kyrie to handle the ball at the end of the first quarter and the start of the second quarter. So there's a lot of things that you're going to tweak and you're going to play with it. It's probably going to take a couple of weeks, if not a couple of months, for them to find their strongest lineup and to gather that data that will show it.
The journey is on. Thanks so much, Richard. Excellent stuff. Have a great rest of your night, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Coming up, lots more to come on this Nets post-game show. Iron Eagles, Syracuse stock, their thoughts on this double overtime loss. Steve Nash on the Big Three's debut. We'll hear from the head coach. That's on the way, and of course, player reaction as well. Stay with us on the Nets post-game show.
Up and Go lets you easily book home cleaning services for women and worker-owned businesses in New York City.
Cada vez que llego a un trabajo, llego con todo mi entusiasmo, como si fuera mi casa. I really like Up and Go because it is really easy to book and it's a really high quality service.
I like the transparency that Up and Go has. 95% of those directly.
I'm still waiting for this press conference to start.
Just go to upandgo.coop.
When it comes to winter, you want the upper hand. So to make sure it could handle a harsh winter, we took the real-time all-wheel drive technology available in the Honda HR-V and pushed it to its limits in the most severe winter driving conditions. Take winter for a spin with a great deal on the Honda HR-V, the most versatile vehicle in its class.
When you get to work, turn on 106.7 Light Up for 3 hours of commercial-free music. Starting at 8:15, 3 hours nonstop with 80s, it's happy in the same artists. Start your day with Light Up.
He's got the ball. Looking down the field. He's in after him. That's how he fires. Looking to toe free. Oh, what a spin. This chance will not be denied. It's already being bet. Campbell striking super finish like a needle.
Introducing the Landroom. Just think for those little everyday trips. Good in every trip. Perfect for catching up with the relatives. And dropping into the car wash en route. Giving someone a helping hand. Or meeting if you need. And putting your feet up after a long day.
The Nets Big Three making their debut. It's a loss, 147-135 to the Cavaliers. We're going to see some big-time numbers on a double overtime night, and that's exactly what we got. Also, Kevin Durant, 50 minutes played. James Harden, 50 minutes on the floor, 48 for Kyrie. And Richard touched on it. It's going to take a little bit of time, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe more.
Yeah, and a good point by you. It's a 58-minute game, so those numbers are going to look a little different. I think offensively, it's not going to be the problem with the Brooklyn Nets. It's going to be what they do on the defensive end. In that third quarter, Cleveland scored 36 points, and this is not the LeBron James Cleveland Cavaliers. So they got to do better defensively, and when they're playing small, they were giving up a lot at the rim. And obviously, in that second overtime with Colin Sexton, 15 points. So offense, they'll figure out. I have no worries about that. To me, playing small seems to be a bit of an issue for them, and also defense and rebounding are always going to be the keys for this team.
And both you and Richard talked about the fact that there was some bright spots and some good things to talk about. Going back to the fourth quarter, trailing by as many as 14, they did rally all the way back to send it into OT. They won that fourth quarter 35-26, but it was all about Colin Sexton in the extra session. 42 points for him. That's a career high.
A big move that Steve Nash made. 8:45 to go in the fourth quarter. The Nets are down 11. He puts the three players together for the first time in the fourth quarter, and they outscored the Cleveland Cavaliers 28-17. So that group is doing really well. First overtime, well, second overtime, that was a stretch of nearly 19 minutes of them playing straight together, and I think it started to wear on them a little bit.
Perfect segment. Let's get to Coach Nash.
And Coach, we'll just start off with your assessment of that second overtime. Colin was matched. Is it just your thoughts overall of that second overtime period?
Yeah, I mean, they had a guy get hot at the right time. He said it for the second overtime. We were a little flat, a little disjointed. Start the game, got down, found our way back in it, pushed it to overtime. Up 3 after the first at the end of the first overtime, we gave up 3, and looks like the legs fell off a little bit, but also he got hot at the right time. Hats off.
First game, the victory, and this new growth group, new look net. When you're talking with the guys in the locker room, are you focusing more on the negatives, if you will, or the areas of cleaning up, or are you bringing up the positives, the things that you want to build on?
Hey, both. I mean, most of the positive though. Look, this is first night that we've had everyone four together. We seemed a little lost at times, which is natural because we haven't played together. Little indecision. We started the game turning the ball over. I think we had 7 or 8 in the first quarter. We cleaned it up, got ourselves back in the game, but obviously, we have to defend better. But I stay positive. These guys, it's the first night out together. We just get happy up for each other. This is going to be a process to take the entire year. So while we're all disappointed, we got lots to go on, lots to grow, lots of opportunity.
Shipper, the Athletic. You mentioned that trio of James, Kevin, and Kyrie. It seemed like they were on the court together a while towards the end of that game. I guess how much do you think fatigue factored in, especially in the second overtime?
Yeah, I think the second overtime there was fatigue. But when a guy just gets hot like that, unbelievable hot, there's not a lot you can do. So a bit of everything. If you ask me, and unfortunately, he didn't close it after the first.
Christian Winfield, New York Daily News.
Hey, Coach, can you, obviously a guy gets hot and sometimes, there's nothing you can do about it. But in terms of just complete defense, they ran up 140 points. What did you see that you didn't like out there?
Well, we had a great job. I think that's
Hey, Josh.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Hey, what's going on? I missed your call earlier, man. Just back to the phone. What's happening?
I'm back where I was before.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I think where we left off, we were going to go and say you took care of the 200 that you needed that day. And I said we would go ahead and just do the whole thing on that Friday.
Right.
So you're all, is Friday still good for you?
Yes, for the most part. Yes.
Okay, yeah, because what I'll do, because I won't be there, but Norma will be there back here on Friday. And so she'll do the whole $500. And you can drop off, you have the one that you have been holding on to, that one, just get back to her.
Yeah.
And that'll be set. The only thing is I don't think she'll be in until 1 o'clock on Friday. Is that okay? Anytime after 1 o'clock?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, yeah. So what? When time we talked on Wednesday? I think things are flying so fast, man. I think that was Wednesday afternoon we talked.
I think it was too, but I don't remember.
Right, exactly. Who can remember, man? All right. but everything okay with you? You're saying you're still in the Bronx, or you moved back into Manhattan?
I'm actually at a hotel in Manhattan for a couple of days.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and I thought about you because did you go to the Nets played one night? Did you go to that game?
They're not letting journalists in, so.
Oh, they're still not press. I guess they're not even letting that many press people in though.
Only like people from the biggest of the biggest.
Yeah, what you say?
Only the biggest of the biggest.
Is that right? Yeah. Any chance you getting there to the Super Bowl?
It's possible.